Hi, I'm Holly and you're watching 𝐊𝐶 TV live from Sydney. Welcome to another edition of Travel Insights, and today we're buckling down and answering one of your most burning questions. When will Australia lift the international travel ban? To kick things off, a story that's become all too typical under these conditions that you might be familiar with if you have family overseas. Sneha Ganda, a 63-year-old woman from Jalandhar, India, has been without fail tracking updates daily on the existing coronavirus situation in Australia. Her eldest son, Sumit, resides in Sydney, the capital of New South Wales, which has heard readying more military support as highly infectious Delta variants spread across the states. It's been nearly 2 years since she last visited the country to see her software engineer's son. But considering the current situation, she may have to wait a little longer till the Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, and his federal government is convinced enough to lift the international border restrictions, allowing entry and exit of tourists. Ever since the coronavirus has struck, several Australian cities have used lockdowns to successfully end COVID-19 outbreaks. The country's second largest city, Melbourne, extended its lockdown on Wednesday to counter rising cases of the virus. A relatively low vaccination rate among Australians is also a cause for concern for the Morrison government, which has been under continuous attack for its alleged missteps, including a shortage of the Pfizer vaccines and a lack of conviction of the safety of the AstraZeneca vaccine, which the country produces domestically. Times are indeed tough for travellers, but with the world preparing to reopen in 2021, we're here to keep you dreaming and planning your next adventure. Whether that's a staycation or flying off to parts of the unknown. Until then, we've got the latest COVID-19 travel advice and updates to keep you up to date and ready to go. We've all been spending a bit more time at home lately, but that doesn't mean our wanderlust has dimmed. If you're sitting there wondering when Australians will be able to travel again, you're not alone. Globetrotters throughout the country are all patiently waiting for the day when Australia's borders will reopen. So, when will Australia open its doors for international visitors? Coronavirus lockdowns have resulted in Australia cocooning itself off from the rest of the pandemic-raged world for the last year and a half. The unprecedented step by the Australian government of almost entirely sealing its border to foreign visitors and banning its citizens from leaving the country was taken in March of 2020. A year and a half later, there are still 6 million Australians under stay-at-home orders, and most of these people reside in Sydney. While there were reports of authorities in Sydney considering easing restrictions for vaccinated residents, a low level of vaccination may not allow this to materialise. The sluggishness of the vaccination program can be seen from the fact that only 14% of the population have been fully vaccinated to date so far in the country. It should be noted that these low rates are partially fueled by the opposition of many to the vaccine, citing its supposed health risks and ineffectiveness. The hot-button issue remains heavily debated amid protests and continues to weigh on the inoculation stall. But having said that, you must be wondering, when will the proposed travel bubbles in Australia form? Well, for the unacquainted, travel bubbles are destinations with borders that allow travel between one country and another while remaining closed to other destinations. The Trans-Tasman bubble opened in April of 2021 on the 19th specifically. This meant that travellers from Australia and New Zealand could travel between the two countries without needing to quarantine. However, this bubble is currently suspended due to a recent COVID-19 outbreak. There's also a huge section of people wanting to get an update on Australians being allowed to travel to New Zealand. The Trans-Tasman bubble between Australia and New Zealand formed in April, and this means Australian residents could have freely travelled without needing to quarantine. Although again, it is currently suspended. Now it's time for a short break, but after the break, I'll be back with more news on the travel space.
Property by 𝐊𝐿𝐴. Looking for a dream home? Well, that may sound easy, but it isn't. And from looking for a property that is the right fit for you in terms of cost and other factors, to zeroing down on the right mortgage plan, there are various aspects to consider. And for the latest lowdown on the property market, tune in on 𝐊𝐿𝐴 TV with me, Sage. I will give the latest updates on the property market as well as real estate stocks to help you make the right decision. Keep watching Property with 𝐊𝐴.
Hello and welcome back to Travel Insights. You must be wondering, what about the news on the 80% vaccination target to open borders? Yes, the government has indeed set an 80% vaccination target before considering opening our borders. This means that Australians would be allowed to travel to safe countries when that portion of the eligible adult population get fully vaccinated. Vaccinated adults can hope for more freedom from the coronavirus-induced restrictions when 70% of them are fully jabbed. Morrison believes that the country could meet this target by the year's end. The government, which goes into the election this year, has now put the onus on Australians. It's now in the hands of people and how fast they accomplish this mission, according to PM Scott Morrison. Community vaccination has been underway since early this year, and you can check if you're eligible for the vaccine on the Department of Health website. Quarantines may still be a mandatory prevention measure throughout the year, though some states will lower the 14-day quarantine to 7 days for vaccinated travellers. Some states, like South Australia, are considering home quarantine for vaccinated travellers with a trial starting in September. So how about the economic impact, you might be wondering? Well, with Australian states entering fresh lockdowns, concerns are rife over the impact of a $1.5 trillion economy, with the few to successfully have navigated the pandemic in 2020. There are economists who anticipate Australia slipping into a second recession, as in many years due to these lockdowns. The economy had already witnessed its first recession in the 30 years in early part of last year. And unfortunately, the ongoing efforts by the government and the Reserve Bank of Australia to boost the economy during COVID-19 recently have started bearing fruits, with Australia's gross domestic product passing pre-pandemic levels. The bottom line is of the current situation that it's unclear when overseas family will be able to reunite, just like 𝐊𝐚𝐥𝐤𝐢𝐧𝐞 and her son in Sydney, the latter of which have been stranded for over a year. Till then, though, you can take some comfort in the famous quote, "Patience is bitter, but the fruit is sweet." Well, that's all for now on this episode of Travel Insights. I'm Holly Shields and you're watching 𝐊𝐴 TV. Stay with us as we bring you the latest news and trending market updates live from Sydney.